The next misconception people have is that dua is only for the weak. There was a time when the Prophet ﷺ's army was extremely strong. And this was the Battle of Hunayn. They had already taken Mecca, now they're going to take this twin city of Mecca, Ta'if. And for the first time, the Muslim army overwhelmed their enemy. And as a result of that, the Sahaba were not busy with dua and dhikr and asking Allah for help. And what happened? They actually started to lose the battle against this weaker enemy. They started to lose the battle to the point that the Prophet was surrounded by only 7 or 9 companions. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought the sakina down upon their hearts again, and they remembered Allah and had victory. Now contrast that with the Battle of Badr. The Battle of Badr, the Muslims were not losing that battle, not even for 1 second. From the moment the battle began until the end, it was a complete rout. Although they were the weaker one, outnumbered by 3 to 1. But what happened before that battle? The entire army, all day and all night before that, was making dua and dhikr. So this concept that dua is only for the weak is a big misconception. And what we need, why we need dua even if we're in a state of strength, is that dua is servitude to Allah. It's showing you your humility to Allah, and it's also reminding you who is the real doer of things. We have no power in and of ourselves. And when we're apparently strong, when we have resources, when we have numbers, when we have wealth, when we apparently look stronger than our enemies, we're actually being veiled from our true reality, which is that we're very weak. This is actually a fitna or a tribulation or a misleading from the actual truth. It's a test. We appear stronger than somebody else, so we forget our neediness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's the whole point. The whole point here is that if you think that dua is only for the weak, you're actually not realizing that you're always weak. Even when you have all the trappings of power, how many, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, major big armies have lost to small armies. Why? No one truly has power. And if you imagine yourself that you have power, you're on falsehood, right? You have a misconception of reality, and that's going to lead to bad results. So this concept of imagining that we don't need help is the first misconception. It's the foundation of this misconception that dua is for the weak. Well, the misconception that you're not always weak. We're constantly weak. Imagine how much of our body we have no control over. You don't have any control over your heart. You don't have any control over your stomach. You don't have any control over your brain. You don't have any control over little tiny viruses that could enter your system at any time. You don't have control over the passengers, the other drivers on the road who can rail into you, who could be drunk, who could be texting. You have control over your own wheel, or so we imagine, okay? But you don't have control over the passengers, other drivers on the road. If you think about how much we're in need, you realize we are constantly always in need. You have no control over the electric company and when the electricity is going to go down. You have no control over the water, when they're going to test it, and when they're going to have to do something and you lose water. You just have no control over our lives. And that's the actual reality. Everything else is a rahmah from Allah Ta'ala, that He veils us from that. Otherwise, we'd be too nervous all the time. But when we think about dua, we have to always remember how powerless we are. So the conception that dua is only for the weak, in a sense, it's correct. And the reality is we're always weak. There's no other category. Every creature is in absolute dire need. If you liked the video that you just watched, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the bell for notifications. And if you really liked what you just saw, support us at patreon.com/Safina Society.